Welcome back to Breakdown, SEC versus the Big Ten, where we evaluate the continuing efforts of the Big Ten and the SEC as they struggle to climb to the top of the ladder and become and/or remain the alpha dog conference of the collegiate world. I'm Joe McClure, and with me is my son.
JJ McClure.
Okay, the day is March 24th, and we are going to get started with a breakdown of the SEC and the Big Ten. I'm going to go through a few questions that I'm going to ask JJ. First question, JJ, true or false? The Big Ten was the best conference in college basketball during the regular season.
True.
True. Okay, we're gonna get into this. Next question. So far, two of the biggest upset have been Oral Roberts over Ohio State and Loyola Chicago over Illinois. After rounds 1 and 2, which conference, Big Ten or SEC, should be feeling better?
Oh, the SEC should be feeling much better.
Much better.
Yeah.
Why?
They have twice as many teams left in the field as the Big Ten.
Okay. The Big Ten started with 9 teams. They're through 2 rounds plus a play-in game. Their record is 7-8. The SEC started with 6 teams through 2 rounds. Their record is 6-4. The Big Ten has 1 team remaining. The SEC has 2 teams. So there's 3 teams, SEC and Big Ten, going into the Sweet 16 dance. JJ, let's talk about the head-to-head matchups that were played. Michigan against LSU and Maryland against Alabama. What's your take on those games?
Well, I think the Michigan versus LSU game just displayed Michigan's resiliency, overcoming one of their best players being out and overcoming a large deficit. They started off the game looking much less athletic, much more lethargic than LSU, and they galvanized and they pulled together and they got the job done. They won by 8. The Alabama-Maryland game, that was just it was a close game until I think 4 or 5 minutes before halftime, and then Alabama track raced them from that point on. I think that was just a exemplary example of what Alabama can do and why they could beat any team in the tournament left. But, I mean, yeah, John Shackelford was looking amazing, and Petty looked pretty good. And, yeah, they're just a well-balanced team, and I think that was Exhibit A.
Okay, those were the 2 best teams through the season in their conference. Michigan was the best team in the Big Ten, and Alabama the best team in the SEC. It's possible, and we'll talk about this later on in the program, but it's possible that those 2 teams might meet up. But before we get to that, you told me that it was true that the Big Ten was the best conference in college basketball during the regular season. My question is, which is the stronger argument? Number 1, the Big Ten was overrated, or number 2, the Big Ten was not overrated?
Well, obviously, I would have to say that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But if I had to just pick between that binary, either they were overrated or they weren't, I would say that they were not overrated.
Okay, explain to me why the Big Ten was not overrated by the selection committee.
Because I think they had the best conference 1 through 14, or every conference doesn't have 14 teams, but I think their depth was unparalleled. I think Michigan State had the opportunity to make a Final Four, and they were the last team from the Big Ten selected in the tournament. I don't think any other conference's 9th team could go match the firepower with Michigan State. And Michigan State did, they lost in overtime, a game that they were leading their first 4 game against UCLA in the NCAA tournament. But I just think I think there were more teams that could beat any team on any given night in the Big Ten than any other
Okay.
conference.
Okay. When is the last time the Big Ten has won a national championship?
It was 21 years ago since Maryland's 2003 championship happened when they were in the ACC.
Okay, so we won't count that when they were in the ACC.
So it was 21 years ago.
Okay, for the Big Ten. Okay, we're reviewing rounds one and two. Talk to me about some teams whose play in those rounds surprised or impressed you.
Oral Roberts. I mean, they're the 15th seed. They're the Cinderella, the legitimate Cinderella.
Okay.
The other lowest seed in the tournament still alive is, I believe, Oregon State, and they're a 12 seed. That's a Power 5. That's a Power 5 team. So I really think that the play of Max Asmus and Kevin O'Banner has just been phenomenal. And I think those two players have really put the entire Oral Roberts team, City of Tulsa, on its back and taken them to the Sweet 16, second 15 seed to ever make it this far after Florida Gulf Coast.
Okay. Is there any other team you want to talk about in the first two rounds that impressed you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there have been a lot of impressive teams. I think Alabama, their display of offensive firepower was impressive, like I mentioned. Michigan's resiliency is impressive. UCLA has they've been great. They lost their best player, 6'9" point guard Chris Smith. He tore his ACL a long time ago, and since then, it took him a while to adjust and adapt. But I think Johnny Juzang has really caught a hot streak and the UCLA has ridden that for a while. He's their leading scorer. He's not a Big Ten or SEC player currently, but he does have SEC ties as he played for the University of Kentucky. I believe it was last year, maybe the year before. I can't remember with COVID fogging my brain and everything. The time has kind of slowed down, but Johnny Juzang has been their star. Buddy Boeheim for Syracuse has been absolutely on fire. That's the type of story that you dream about, like the coach and his son being the best player and leading them to the Sweet 16 as the underdog. So I mean, he's been impressive. There's been a lot of impressive storylines.
I've been, and I'm sure the whole world has been, extremely impressed by the Pac-12.
4 teams, 25% of the Sweet 16 is Pac-12.
They are 10-1 in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They last won a national championship in 1997. But I don't think anyone would have predicted them to be this good. All of their wins, those 10 wins, one was one where they won by default. All the other 9 wins,
VCU.
the other 9 wins have been by double digits.
Yeah.
So they have the Pac-12 has been rolling through the tournament so far. As we get ready to conclude the review of the first 2 rounds, are there any particular players? You already mentioned 2 for Oral Roberts. Are there any other players who specifically impressed you? Well, you probably mentioned 3, counting Alabama's.
Yeah. Keeping it on a Pac-12 flavor, I already mentioned Johnny Juzang, but I would say the Mobley brothers for USC, Evan and Isaiah. Evan is a top 3 NBA lottery pick in next year's draft, probably the 2nd overall pick, but definitely won't fall out of the top 3. He's a do-it-all, Giannis type. He's been incredibly impressive, and his brother Isaiah has actually impressed me. He's not as regarded as his younger brother, but he's a sophomore and a captain for USC, and that type of leadership is always something that impresses me when an underclassman rises to a captaincy. But he's been making threes. He's been hitting the pick and pop jumper. He's been hitting open shots. So I would say Isaiah Mobley along with Evan Mobley from USC.
Very good. After giving our love to conferences and players and teams outside the SEC, we're going to get back in the SEC and Big Ten. We're going to get back into the SEC and the Big Ten, and we're going to review or preview rather the Sweet 16 games. And those games, I'm going to go through all 8 games, and then we'll come back and focus on the SEC and the Big Ten. In the West, Gonzaga, 1 seed, is going to be playing Creighton, a 5 seed. And USC, a 6 seed, will be playing their conference rival or conference their conference team, Oregon, a 7 seed. In the East, Michigan and Florida State. Michigan's a 1 seed, Florida State's a 4 seed. And the other East game has UCLA, 11 seed, against Alabama, a 2 seed. And then the right side of the bracket, in the South region, we have Baylor, a 1 seed, against Villanova, a 5 seed, and Arkansas, a 3 seed, against Oral Roberts, a 15 seed. And the Midwest has Loyola Chicago, an 8 seed, against Oregon State, a 12 seed. And the other game is Syracuse, an 11 seed, against Houston, a 2 seed. So those are the 8 games. Let's go through, JJ, and kind of analyze. Let's start with the Alabama UCLA game. Alabama is a 6-point favorite.
Yeah, it just actually just raised to 6.5. It actually just the point spread actually just moved to 6.5 points. So I think the smart money might be headed towards Tuscaloosa's way.
Okay, I did not know that. Any more? Can you analyze what you expect to happen in that game?
I expect for UCLA's run to win in that game. I expect Alabama to run them off the court. I don't think they don't have anyone that can guard Herb Jones, and I just think Shackelford and Petty will be making threes, and Jones will be creating, and UCLA is a deeply flawed team. They made it this far, but Alabama is the 2 seed for a reason. I've watched more Alabama this year, but I still think that.
Well, I'm sure we don't expect Alabama to be hitting the trays like they were against Maryland, right?
Yeah, they were 16 for 33 against Maryland. Almost 50% on that volume is incredible. Those are the type of numbers that should have teams like Gonzaga and Michigan shivering in their.
So you still got Alabama a prohibited favorite, more than the 6.5 points.
Oh yeah, when Alabama wins, I mean, Alabama can lose to anybody. They can win against anybody. I know this as a Western Kentucky fan. I watched them lose to Western Kentucky, but when they win, they can blow any team out by 20, including Gonzaga. I have that type of faith in their offensive potency. So yeah, and now that they're playing defense this year, they're a top 10 defensive team as well. I really think that Alabama. I don't think they're the best team in the tournament, but I think that they could win this tournament. So I don't think UCLA has that type of ceiling. So I'm gonna go with Alabama.
Okay. Next team in the Southeastern Conference, Arkansas. They're going against Oral Roberts. Arkansas is a 11-point favorite. Oral Roberts is a 15 seed and Arkansas is a 3 seed. As you said earlier, only one time before this year has a 15 seed gotten into the round of Sweet 16, and that was Florida Gulf Coast University back in 2013, where as a 15 seed they beat number 2 Georgetown by 10. Then they beat number 7 San Diego State by 10.
And they lost to Florida by 10 and
by 12.
By 12. Oh.
They lost to Florida. Florida was the number 3 seed.
Yeah.
So Oral Roberts is kind of duplicating Florida Gulf Coast in that Oral Roberts defeated a 2 seed Ohio State 75-72 in overtime. They defeated the 17 seed Florida 81-78, and they are playing Arkansas, a 3 seed, this coming weekend. One thing about Florida State, one thing about Oral Roberts is I do not expect them to back down. Given that they've just defeated another SEC team in Florida, and they also defeated a number 2 seed in Ohio State, they're not going to be backing down. They're definitely feeling that they belong in this tournament. They played Arkansas back in December at halftime. They led Arkansas 40-30. That being said, I don't see Oral Roberts hanging around very long against Arkansas. Back in December when Arkansas played them, Arkansas did not have their big man in the middle, Jalen Williams. Even without him, they out-rebound Oral Roberts 58-32. That's an amazing advantage. They had 31 defensive rebounds, 23 offensive rebounds. And as I said, that was without their 6'10" guy in the middle, Jalen Williams. I expect them to out-rebound Oral Roberts again. However, Ohio State also out-rebound Oral Roberts. They out-rebounded them 49-32 by 17, Ohio State did, and yet they lost. Ohio State lost by 3, Oral Roberts won by 3. Florida out-rebound Oral Roberts by 13, 37-24, and Oral Roberts won by 3. Arkansas did out-rebound them by, as I said earlier, by 26, which is huge, and Arkansas won by 11. And Arkansas is 11-point favorite right now. I can see Arkansas easily winning by more than the 11 spread, because Arkansas, the only thing I think can hurt Arkansas is turnovers. And I'm expecting Arkansas to dominate with their height. Oral Roberts is going to get out rebound. I think that's pretty much is a given. But Arkansas plays defense, and that's what impresses me. In addition to that, Arkansas has instant offense in the SEC 6th Player of the Year coming off the bench. Trying to remember his name.
J.D. Notae?
Yeah, J.D. Notae. So I expect Arkansas to do kind of like they did against Colgate. Arkansas was down 19-33 against Colgate. They started slowly, but then they made a run, took the lead before halftime, and then just cruised. I expect them to cruise with Oral Roberts. But I will say this: Oral Roberts has 2 dynamic players. You mentioned them earlier. I'll call them Batman and Robin. A 6'1" guard, Max Amos.
Asmus is
Asmus.
Yeah, Asmus.
Okay, he's averaging 24.5
Yeah, he's basically averaging 25 points. He's the leading scorer in the nation.
In the tournament, he's been averaging closer to 28 points per game.
Yeah.
And his cohort, Kevin O'Banner, 6'8". He's for the season he averaged 19 points per game, but in the tournament against Ohio State and Florida, he's averaged 29. Put up 30 against Ohio State and 28 against Florida. So those are, in a lot of ways, Oral Roberts is a 2-man team. Arkansas defense is much better now than it was in December. JJ, do you think you think Oral Roberts can cover the 11 points?
Oh, I expect them to. I don't expect them to win, but I absolutely expect them to. That's the second largest spread in the tournament outside of the Gonzaga game against Creighton.
Yeah.
That's 13.5 points. But yeah, I fully expect Oral Roberts to cover that spread.
How close do you expect it to be?
I would I'd have Arkansas winning by 4 to 6 points. I just think that I don't think Jalen Williams is going to actually be able to play a lot. I don't think there's a matchup for him. A lot of times they use Kevin O'Banner as a 5-man, and I don't really think that. I think Oral Roberts just they elect to surrender the rebounding advantage. Like they'll take that on one end of the court, knowing that offensive rebounds, long threes, offensive rebounds are to their advantage. They're more likely to get those than other rebounds, and I think they just like the matchup advantage that that presents on the other end of the court when they're on offense, when they have a lumbering big coming around. So I think Arkansas did out rebound Oral Roberts by I think was it 26 or something like
26.
that. 26. Yeah, and that was Justin Smith playing the center, and I think Arkansas has found itself to be very, very, very viable with Justin Smith at center. When he goes to the 5, Arkansas. I mean, like the story of Arkansas as a team when Smith plays, when he doesn't, has been known. I think they're like 4-5 when he doesn't play, and like they've only lost one game when he does. So I think Justin Smith is the X factor in that game, and I think how he matches up against Kevin O'Banner really will tell the tale of the tape. But yeah, they're absolutely a 2-man team, and I don't expect Max Axmus. He had 11 points on 11 shots last time. I don't think that's going to happen again.
I don't think Arkansas, the first game, they were 4 for 24 and 3 points. Mm-hmm. They shot 16.77% from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
I can't see that happening again. And at the same time, in that game, Oral Roberts was 8 of 29. So they shot 27.6%. And they averaged slightly more than 30% from 3-point line. I see Arkansas. I'm just saying Arkansas doesn't get the respect. A lot of people had them beating Colgate. Arkansas won by 18. Arkansas was a dog against Texas Tech. They won. When the brackets first came out on CBS, I was listening to, I forget, one of the announcers. He picked Colgate to beat Arkansas. I'm just saying Arkansas doesn't get any respect. They are a 3 seed, a well-deserved 3 seed in my mind. I mean, a lot of people haven't heard of them. They haven't paid much attention to them because Arkansas has not been a factor. It's been 1997 since they've gone to a Sweet 16 game, I believe. Maybe 96.
It was 96 last time.
Okay. So it's been a while. But that's the take on that. I say Arkansas covers the 11, and you say they don't. Okay, there's another conference team playing, Michigan and FSU. That's a huge game right there. Give me your breakdown of that game.
Yeah, that's the rematch of the Elite Eight game from, when was it, 2016?
I believe so.
Yeah. I love this game for many reasons. I'm a huge Michigan fan, but also Raekwon Gray is my favorite player in the tournament left.
Who is he?
He is a 6'8", do-everything power forward from Florida State. His body type is that of a Draymond Green, but he doesn't exactly play like Draymond Green. But he is a point forward who can do it all. I love his game. He's not the draw though for Florida State. He's a 6'8" junior. The star of the show is going to be a 6'9" point guard by the name of Scotty Barnes. He's a top 5 NBA lottery pick in next year's draft. He doesn't start, but he plays starters minutes. And he's just a dynamic, athletic specimen who's very skilled for his size. And a lot of people know about Raekwon Gray. More people know about Scotty Barnes. But MJ Walker is the heart and soul of that team. He's the senior leader. He is their leading scorer. And Florida State always has like 4 guys that average 10 to 14 points a game. Like they are the most balanced team in college basketball. Year in and year out. Leonard Hamilton, I don't know how he does it, but he's consistent with that. But I love Leonard Hamilton as a coach. I love the way watching his offense work, and just like how everyone shares the ball and the lack of selfishness. I love the way that Florida State's teams have played under Leonard Hamilton over the past few years.
Who has the coaching advantage in that game?
I'd say it's a push. I don't really know if there is a coaching advantage.
Okay.
the experience advantage is obviously with Florida State, but Phil Martelli is a very experienced assistant coach for Juwan Howard, and I don't know. I would still call it a push.
Tell us about Florida's offense. Do they score a lot of points? Are they defensive minded?
Well, they're defensive minded. They don't always score a lot of points. They all buy in to a. They have a lot of long athletic players. They have a lot of athletes that is going to strain Michigan's players, especially Mike Smith. Mike Smith is coming off one of the worst games I've seen him play. It might be the worst game of his Michigan career, and just the length of LSU was really pronounced, and just he had so many unforced errors, so many turnovers that weren't takeaways. That was just him underestimating the angle and thinking he had a window. That was the worst game Mike Smith has played, and that's my biggest concern with the matchup between Michigan and Florida State.
How will the matchup with Florida State and Michigan in the middle go with Hunter Dickinson?
Oh, Hunter Dickinson should feast. I mean, he hasn't. Yeah, he should feast. He should feast pretty easily. I think the Big Ten. The one thing the Big Ten was great at this year was big men. From the Player of the Year in Luka Garza to Kofi Cockburn to Hunter Dickinson. Travion Williams at Purdue, E.J. Liddell. Like the thing that made the Big Ten great was its big men, and I believe that what results in wins in the tournament is guard play. But luckily, Michigan has great guard play, so I'm not too concerned about that.
Okay, so Michigan is a 3-point favorite in this game.
Yeah.
Do they cover the 3?
I don't think so. I think that they win by exactly 3. I think it's a push. I think 2-3. I think it's going to be the best game of the weekend, and I really think that it's a great matchup. It's a stylistically interesting matchup because they do different things and they execute in different ways. But I think both teams are very capable of making it to a Final Four and going further than that.
The Big Ten has struggled in the tournament. Michigan right now is the last one standing from the Big Ten, a conference that started with more than any other conference in the country. They lost some big games. Wisconsin lost by 13 to Baylor. Illinois lost by 13 to Loyola Chicago. Iowa lost by 15 to Oregon. Purdue lost by 9 to North Texas. I suspect that Florida State will knock off Michigan and the Big Ten will go home. They will leave Indianapolis and be without a team for the Elite Eight in the Final Four. That's my prediction. But they play the game because that's where it's decided at, on the floor, not on paper, not on a talk show. Who do you think has the toughest path to the Elite Eight? Michigan, Alabama, or Arkansas?
I think Alabama does because they have to play Michigan.
I said to the Elite Eight.
Oh, to the Elite Eight.
Yes. Where's the toughest path to the Elite Eight?
Oh, well, then Michigan because they have to play Florida State.
Okay. So that saying it's more likely right now that we will see at least 2 SEC teams in the Elite Eight.
No, but I do think it. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think it's very likely that Arkansas makes it to Elite Eight, given that they're facing a 15 seed. I think the UCLA Alabama game could. I know I gave Alabama its flowers and I sang its praises, but I think UCLA can give them a tough out. I think that should be a pretty good game.
But not as Alabama won't be tested as much as Michigan will be tested.
No. I think Florida State is better than UCLA or Roberts or for sure.
Well, I'm talking comparative between the two teams. Alabama will win more comfortably than you predict Michigan.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think Florida State is the best team. I think Michigan is the best team out of Arkansas or Alabama, but I think Florida State when it comes to their opponents, I'd put Florida State as the second best team. I'd put them above Arkansas or Alabama. So I think those are the two best teams. That's why I think it's going to be the best game. And I think that's going to be the hardest road for Michigan to overcome.
Okay. What other Sweet 16 games? What other game would you say that the fans should take special notice of?
Well, if you haven't gotten a lot of Pac-12 content in your life, I mean, there's always a USC at Oregon game. USC has a top 3 lottery pick, so if you're not super into the NCAA tournament over the NBA, that should be intriguing. I think Florida State Michigan's the best game, but I think USC Oregon has its appeal. I like Syracuse Houston, just because even though Houston's the 2 seed and Syracuse the 11 seed, it's kind of interesting matchup with Syracuse being the ACC powerhouse and Houston being from a mid-major conference. And I think as well as Houston rebounds, as well as Houston D's people up, it's just playing against the zone, the 2-3 zone, and playing against Syracuse, the architect of the 2-3 zone, running it at a masterful level is something that it's hard to prepare for. You can't really practice for. So I think that should be a definitely interesting game. I am least interested in the Oregon State Loyola Chicago game, definitely, but yeah.
Well, okay, JJ, as we get ready to preview the Elite Eight, give me your winners in the Sweet 16 games. Give me your winners. The Gonzaga Creighton.
I have Gonzaga winning that game.
USC Oregon.
I have Oregon winning that game. They would not be a 7 seed if they were healthy the entire season. They're healthy now.
Michigan Florida State.
Oh man, that's such a coin flip. My heart says Michigan, but I really think Florida State could be out for revenge. In my bracket, I have Florida State moving beyond Michigan.
Okay, but we want to leave it there.
Okay.
The UCLA Alabama.
I have Alabama winning that game.
Okay, and going over to the right side of the bracket, Baylor Villanova.
Oh yeah, Baylor should win that one pretty easily.
Arkansas ORU. Oral Roberts.
I think Cinderella's cherry turns into a pumpkin for Oral Roberts.
Loyola, Chicago, Oregon State.
The most underseeded team in the tournament, Loyola Chicago, is now ranked as the 7th best team per KenPom. I have them advancing past Oregon State.
Yeah. I tell you, they really impressed me. Their big man impressed me against Illinois.
Yeah.
Syracuse, Houston, 11 against the 2.
I have Syracuse, and I don't even think it's going to be a close game.
Ooh, wow.
I watched Houston a lot.
You said that about the Houston Rutgers game.
And Rutgers really should have won. I mean, they were up, 4-6 with a minute left. They gave that game away. Houston out rebounds teams in their conference. I don't think it's going to be the same. It's just they don't. I've just watched them struggle against Memphis twice, and I don't think they match up well with Syracuse. I don't think they don't shoot well enough to do anything against the zone. Their rebounding advantage, I don't think will be there based on the zone and the size of their opponent. And their best player still has like a hip pointer. He got hurt. He hurt his side last time. So I just don't think that's in Houston's favor.
Okay, before we close, give me your Final Four teams.
Of the remaining teams left, 3 from my original bracket are still there, and I will pick Florida State, Gonzaga, and Baylor like I had. I originally had Illinois accompanying those 3 teams, but Loyola Chicago prevented that from occurring. So I will say that Buddy Boeheim and his father make it to the Final Four.
Okay, so just to repeat, to get rid of some of the noise, you have Gonzaga, Florida State, Baylor, and Syracuse.
I do.
Okay. Well, we're about ready to wrap up this segment of breakdown SEC versus the Big Ten. I just want to say, in my mind, the alpha dog for this program, the alpha dog conference would be the SEC. They have 2 teams remaining. Big Ten has 1. So that's my breakdown for now. we'll see what happened in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. We'll come back, present another program right before the Final Four. With that, JJ, anything you want to close with?
No, just go blue and Wu Pig Sui.
All right, that's a wrap. See you next time on Breakdown, SEC versus the Big Ten. Thank you.